welcome to Textiles and Tea with the Handweavers Guild of America. I'm Kathy Group, I'm the advertising manager, and I'll be your host today. We want to thank our sponsor, Myrna Lindstrom. Myrna is one of our Textiles and Tea angels. She's been very supportive, and Myrna, we appreciate you supporting these programs. As always, if you would like to put a question in, please put it in the Q&A and not in the chat. I can't see them if they're in the chat, but we want those comments. Those are great comments. We appreciate those. But if you would put your questions in the Q&A. Today we have Irene Heckel-Volpe. Irene has been creating collectible soft sculptures since 1986. She began with mohair teddy bears that were featured in the magazine, including Teddy Bear and Friends. In 2022, Irene discovered the art of needle felting. Thank goodness. As time went on, she became a larger part of Irene's creative process. She began to create sculptures beyond teddy bears, developing new techniques, mixing in different kinds of media. Irene has taught at the Aramont School of Arts and Crafts, Southeast Fiber Forum, Tyrone School of Arts and Crafts, Southeast Fiber Arts Alliance, as well as guilds and much, much more. Welcome, Irene. It's great to have you here.
It's great to be here, Kathy. Good to see you.
Thank you. Okay, most important question. What is your favorite tea?
My very favorite tea, and tea is a good subject because I love tea, is Morning Thunder. It sounds like what it is, but yeah, I've been drinking that tea for forever. And I like other teas also, but that's my go-to.
There you go. Morning Thunder. We're gonna have to look that one up. So how did you get started in fiber?
Well, the fiber started with the teddy bears, as you mentioned, because I was working in mostly mohair fabric and stuff, which is a little different than working just mohair fiber. The mohair is woven into a cotton backing into fabric, and it's actually how the like you'd see antique teddy bears made out of it. So because a lot of people say, oh, you made mohair bears, and they're thinking mohair fiber because they're thinking like now, but this is actually fabric like you would buy it on the bolt and, cut it out to design patterns and so on. So that's my start in fiber as far as professionally. Personally, my mother was a big fiberholic. She used to name something. She knitted, crochet, tatted lace, and the stuff goes on. So I was exposed, but as far as professionally, mohair bears. And then the fiber came, as you said, 2002, actually at a teddy bear rally. Was at the when I was attending, it was in Amherst, and their fiber guild was there. They took a table at the teddy bear rally because it was a big town event, and I saw somebody mention felting. And it wasn't the felting I was used to with water and all that. It was somebody poking in a big pile with something, and I couldn't catch. And I remember the person going, "Oh no, this is a new method of dry felting." So right away I went, "Ooh," because I liked felting. Didn't do a lot of it, but I liked it. And I bought 3 balls of roving and a few needles and went back to my booth. And I have not looked back since. It's been a fabulous journey. It has been a fabulous journey.
Well, what got you started on bears, teddy bears?
Oh, that's the bears are I've always loved bears, okay, or stuffed animals. I'm an animal person. But what happened was, I think mainly is that I couldn't afford the ones I liked. Artist teddy bears started to hit the market in 1984. There were no artist bears at that point. It was all like the major manufacturers, Steiff and Gund and whoever, that kind of thing. And I liked the artist pieces because they had the most expression, and they looked like, it's like when we all work in our wovens and all our other things, there's something special about something handmade. So, and hand design, original design. So I liked them, but I couldn't afford them. They were priced, they were just out of my league at that time. And anytime I like something and I find it a little bit more than I can bear financially, I will try to do it myself. And I found that I liked the bear I made, but I also liked the process. And this was something new. Sometimes I don't like the process. I like the result, and that's it. And I just leave it alone. But the bears, not so much. And I started doing patterns, and I have no background in patterns and stuff, but I knew what shapes I wanted. And I had one professional pattern that I did my first bear with. So it helped me to understand what needed to be done, like gussets and different things like that. But after that, everything, all the bears were originals. They were all designed, and the patterns were all hand drawn on pieces of paper and stuff like that. But I enjoyed the process. I liked watching them come to life. I liked doing the jointing. I liked all of it. So there we went with those cuddly little creatures that everybody seems to like bears. I don't think there are too many that don't.
That's true. It's true. Well, I always thought it was interesting because you're pretty much a self-taught artist. Do you think if you had, taken classes in a workshop or in a school or that sort of thing, do you think you would have turned out to be a different artist? Do you think it would have affected how you do your work?
Yes and no. Yes, I do, because I would have definitely not had to go through all that trial and error. I would have been educated a little bit better about, I don't know, tools and patterns and whatever. The bears, that opportunity might have presented itself to learn that from other artists. But the needle felting, there was not really any real information on needle felting when I started. When I saw this guild working on needle felting, I actually, because I was at a bear show, I took the roving that I had bought and the needles, and she said, you just poke. But that was all the instruction I got. There was nothing else. And she was not making anything. She was just poking in a big pile. I made a bear. What a surprise. I made a bear, and people thought I was crazy. It was very warm. It was over 100 degrees. It was an outdoor show. But I made a bear, and what I did was I took a picture of what I had made, and I sent it to that guild, saying, I forgot who it was exactly I sent it to, but it doesn't matter. I said, I bought, can you help me? I did this. Can you tell me what I could do better or different? And the answer was no. We haven't taken it that far yet. The best thing is you keep going and do what you're doing. We haven't gone that far with it. We find it like fascinating, but nobody was running with it. So there was really no help. And they mentioned to me at the time that there was no real information. There were no videos. And back in 2002, YouTube and all that wasn't really a big force, and neither was the internet. I mean, it's all starting at that point. So they said, do the best you can. There were books in, I believe it was Norway, that they had some little gnomes and stuff. But of course, it was all in Norwegian, and you could see a picture. But it really wasn't a step-by-step anything. So it wasn't really a help to me at that point. So I just played. Basically, that's what it is. I played. Sometimes good, sometimes bad. So would I have been different? Oh, absolutely. But I think in the long run, it might have taken me longer, but I think I enjoyed the winding path I took, because I think that made me better at explaining to students too, because I have that part of my career, if you want, is teaching also. So I think part of it, I mean, I would have liked a better education, but by the same token, I think I definitely would have been a different artist. I don't think the things would have been the same. So kind of a long answer to your question, but.
Well, I was curious if that, because you are such a wonderful teacher, I was curious if that was part of it, is that what it's like to be sitting there with this material going, what do I do now?
Yeah,
so.
I have students now who I tease because they're really good. I have some, their work is awesome stuff. And I always tease them that they don't need me. They say, you guys don't need me anymore. They go, are you kidding me? When we get stuck, we just go, here, fix it. And I guess that's again a part of that, that winding path. Somewhere along the way, I probably figured out something that might help them. So yeah, I'm glad I went the way I went, but would it have helped? Oh, absolutely. I would have loved to see that happen. But
I think it's interesting how your career has taken a path, because you started out with making teddy bears, and people associate those with kids and big kids. And then now you're doing a lot of teaching with making these older people, these delightful, lovely older people, as in this image of the bear on the left and then our cuties on the right. Do you have any thoughts on that, on how you went from one to the other, kind of from the young to the old?
Yeah, because I think they're kind of tied together in the sense of I'm attracted, as a even as a collector, because I collect bears also. I'm attracted to characters and expression. And I think that helped me when I went to the needle felting, because older people, and I also do a lot of trolls and fairies and all that kind of, the fantasy kind of things. I think I'm attracted, or the I would say the thread is probably the fact that I'm attracted to the unusual and the lived in. Young faces to me aren't very lived in, and I don't think they're very interesting to me. I think I find older faces, not necessarily ancient faces, but older faces, they're lived in. And there's some lines in the faces and wrinkles, and as you can see by these guys, some jowls and things that are a little bit wonky because they're older. But I think it reflects life a little better to me. Even with the bears, that's the same thing. I mean, I learned that expression was everything, how to make them look younger and older, and by the positioning of the eyes and so on. But passing over into the needle felting was a whole other thing. And I think that the main thing for me is that they tie in that way. I like characters, and characters seem to come with age, or life, because you live, I mean, think of the real people you meet that are characters. They're usually not real young people. So that would be, I guess, my reasoning as far as where they're tied together. And I found it easy to go from one to the other. It didn't really seem like a big stretch to me.
I love those face. People are commenting that the expression on their faces, like you talked about, how wonderful those are.
Oh, I'm glad. Like I said, I smile a lot when I make them. I look for that for me. I mean, I can only create for me at the in the moment. And then you hope that someone else may find them attractive, or at least interesting, even if not attractive, may find them interesting anyway.
Well, you have earned numerous awards for your work. And we're going to look at two of these pieces that you've won awards for. Now, the squirrel you won at the Southeast Animal Fiber Fair, SAF. And then the owl was this past October, you won again at Southeast Animals Fair. And you've won numerous other awards, but these are two examples of it. Do you remember the first award you ever got? And how do you think that impacted on you or your work?
Oh, my first award was at the 2002 New York Sheep and Wool Festival. I had a student actually recommend, because I didn't know anything about entering. They had contests or something there. And I entered. It was an early version of my Cheshire Cat. My Cheshire Cat's, in my eyes, has gotten much better, but this was an early version and I liked it. I entered it, and when it won first place, I was so over the moon about that. And I think it affected me in the sense of I could take this art form and maybe really do something with it. Sometimes it pushes you to be better. Like what can I improve upon? What could I do better that I haven't done before? What features, I made it this way. Could I have done this better? Could I have got more detail? And I think it pushed me. It was one of the first competition things in needle. It was obviously the first one in needle felting. And that's what I'm bringing up. The Bears had won, those were in Europe. The one you had shown earlier had a ribbon. He was at a festival in Europe, actually. But the needle felting, when I did that New York Sheep and Wool, that was so awesome. I came in and I actually saw the piece judged, and I saw the ribbon on it. I was walking on air for a while, and I went home and I started working some more, and more pieces came out, and I tried people, and I think it pushed me. It really did push me. And I think a lot of people, if you recognize their work a little bit, or even give them a small recognition, I think that encourages people to try to find a footing. And I find that really exciting. to find that out for them. So hopefully that answered your question.
That's a wonderful answer. I love that answer. I don't want you to say, I got an award and I never did anything ever again. That would be
Oh,
terrible.
please, no. I don't think that was, I was so surprised that it happened. I think it took me a minute. And then after that, it was all about, what can I do? What can I do? I could do next year. So
There you
then
go.
again, I think it pushes you. It really does. It pushes you into, hopefully into a creative zone. And that goes with anybody's, especially fiber arts forms. I'm sure you see it in other fiber arts too. You know, if they get a little, you know, maybe they're a beginner, but you give them some kind of recognition and all of a sudden it's, oh, this is wonderful. I can improve myself. I think it really pushes people to do better. And I'm glad to see it happen.
Now, in these next images of your work, you have a lovely way of capturing an animal's likeness. And we've got several here. First of all, I want to ask you about how did you get started in doing these portraits? But first, I want to point out the image on the left. Mandy and I both looked at that and went, the photograph isn't as good as the felting. The felting looks more real than the photograph does. But I love this comparison of seeing what the photograph was, what you were working from, and then what you made. So how did you get started in doing animal portraits?
That was a reluctant start. My students got me involved doing paintings. Okay, the fiber paintings.
Oh.
So I'll get into that, but let's back up a second. As I did the fiber paintings, I started doing some animals, and people went, "Can you do my dog? Can you do my cat? Can you?" And I'm like, "Oh no." That's like when I used to have people ask me if I could do repairs on antique bears. It's just you're a little scared because you're not sure of the expectations of the quote unquote the customer or the client. You're never sure of what they're expecting of you. Are they expecting it to look like a photo, or are they expecting it to be a representation of the photo? So that's a little tricky. But I started, people asked me and I said, okay, it's another push. Somebody asked me to do it and they pushed me. So I took these, in fact, the one that you're looking at here, that bearded collie, that was like one of my, I'd say first ones, about the third or fourth commission in, but I've done a few of them. And it's always funny that people send you pictures that are not so good. They want you to get their animal to look really great, but then they send you pictures that are really not that great. So you kind of have to, I don't know, live for a second and think what that animal what the expression might be, or the light in their eyes. If I did that bearded collie the way it was you can't even see the dog's eyes. So I had to try to remember what the dog looked like, because I did meet that dog in person. And then I started it, and then I got other people. As soon as I started putting them up on my page, or like my Facebook page or something, people, oh, could you do my dog? Could you do my cat? Could you do my, yes, I can. I always describe it and tell people I can do it, but remember, it's my interpretation of your pet. And the limitations I have are the colors of the fiber. I don't like dyeing my own fiber, and I won't do it for a portrait. So I try to find fibers that are available that will sort of represent what your pet will look like. So I just do it with that little caveat in mind, and then let them go from there. My biggest get with the pet portraits is getting their eyes right. Because if I can do their eyes right and they connect, the rest of it's actually not that bad. It's just, for me, I got to get the eye reflection and the eyes right. If I can do that, then I'm good. So it was an awkward beginning to that part of my career, but it's fun. It's fun to do. And I've taught classes where people do their own pets, which I think is wonderful. And you'd be very surprised how good the people are doing it. I do a sketch for them or transfer for them, but then they're on their own. We sit in class and we figure it out. So it's fun. It's fun to do that.
Are you a painter?
No, not in any way, shape, or form.
You have such an eye. I mean, I was looking at that dog's photograph, and it's like how you knew where to put the light, where to put the dark, how to add some color. It just feels so painterly that you know how to do that.
Thank you. It does to me too, and it surprises me because I definitely am not a painter or a drawer of anything. I could basically sketch, like when I did the bears, I would sketch something that I wanted, a position, a arm length, whatever. I could sketch that, but I don't have to be precise. If you asked me to do a drawing of your pet, I could never do it. I could do it in fiber. I can't do it for real, like pastels or something. I have one student in particular that is extremely, I have two actually that I can think of right off the top of my head. They're painters and artists extraordinaire of portraits and stuff like that. And I'm nothing compared to them, but I can work in fiber, which is, that's I guess my medium. So I can do that. I don't paint though. I don't. I'd like to maybe try it now. When I was younger, I wouldn't touch a paintbrush. You couldn't get me to do that. I don't care.
You're the poster child for all of those people that we hear all the time that say, I can't draw anything, therefore I'm not creative, therefore I'm not an artist.
Oh, I get that.
You're a great example of, no, that's something completely different. That's not your modality. This is your modality, and you're wonderful at it, and you're very creative. Just because you don't paint or draw doesn't mean you're not an artist.
Well, that's what I try to tell people. Many students will start taking a class, but I have no art ability. I said, and that means what to me? It means nothing to me. My favorite phone call, and that was when I was still back in New York on Long Island. Somebody wanted to sign up for class, and I said, remembered this all these years. She was a friend of somebody who had taken class, and she said to me, "Hello," she says, "I'm inept. Can I sign up for class?" I said, "And we specialize in the inept. Come on down," because it doesn't take artistic ability, and everybody has a gift. Everybody has an art gift. They just have to find where it is. We all have something. We have something that we just have to find it. And if you don't try it because you say, "Oh, I can't do this. I can't draw. I can't sculpt. I can't draw." If you keep saying that, you never try. You may not find your gift. All I can do is try to encourage people to try to do that, because I never thought of it the way you brought it up, but I guess so, because I'm definitely the poster child for not being able to do that stuff. Not my forte.
Not your thing.
No, not my thing.
But needle felting is your thing.
Yes.
And it's so versatile. I never thought about it until I started looking at your work and getting ready for this interview. It's like, you can just do about anything. I mean, you can do 3-dimensional, you can do 2-dimensional, and it just shows how different your outcomes can be.
Oh, absolutely.
So when you started doing felting, needle felting, which did you start with first, and which one do you like better, the 3D or the 2D?
Oof. Very, very loaded question. I did it backwards. I started 3D. I did 3D first. I done 3D between the bears, and then the transition into needle felting, all 3D. Did not touch a 2D piece. Would not even have entertained a 2D piece. I think in 3D. So that's the only way I can do these things. So I started there. And then what happened was I had students asking, and I started to say something before about that. I had students asking me, they had seen some fiber paintings, and mostly wet felted, but they want to know, could you teach me fiber painting? I said, I could teach it with needle felting, I guess. I said, yeah, why not? I'd done a workshop, oh God, a lot of years ago with the wet felted paintings, and it was okay, but I don't really have a lot of space for that. And I'm a needle felter, so I'd rather do that. So I did the workshop and I put it away in the back of my head. But when I had students asking, because they couldn't find a teacher, and they already had me, so I said, I'll work on it. I said, but just know right up front, I don't draw well and whatever. And I could get you going on technique and maybe fiber blending for color. I said, but then you're on your own. And a lot of them have artistic, like I said, paintability and all that stuff. They are really good at it. So they could run. And I figured, how much could I lose by getting them started? Just because you can't do it to perfection doesn't mean you shouldn't teach it. You can maybe teach the techniques, but let the student run with they may be better at it. So they got me doing this. And then I discovered I liked this. This was fun. I could do this. I mean, again, develop it a little bit more as I went along, but it was a backwards process. 3D. I still do 3D art. I do 2D, and I call it 2+D because it's it's 3D, but it's on like you saw the owl. He's on a plaque. Same with the squirrel. He's on a background, but there's things that come off the background. So I don't know what you call that, but I would say 2+D. And I'm enjoying that because it's another challenge to figure out how to make things come off the canvas. So they kind of bridge the gap. And a lot of people have display space on their walls that they might not have shelf space. So, but they want a piece of art that they could put up, but they'd like it to be dimensional. They don't always want a picture. So I'm trying to ride that right now. I think right this minute, if you ask me, I probably prefer that. But I'll always fall back to 3D. I will always fall back to 3D because I enjoy that process also. And most people right now, that's where they're lost. They can't do 3D. So they want to know, how do I get it to be 3D? How do I think that out? So it lends itself really well to that whole situation. But I did do it backwards as I do everything else. So there you go.
Well, I made the assumption when we first started talking that you had started with 2D and gone into 3D. So I have to admit, I was surprised. I really thought it was going to be the other way around.
Everybody I know does it the other way around. I haven't met that, but that's just me. That's where I end up doing stuff. So I did it backwards, and I guess that's okay. It worked for me. It worked.
Well, I have to admit that first time I met you was at the Southeast Fiber Forum Conference. And your class was by far the rowdiest class at that conference. We could hear you guys laughing all over the building. No matter where we were, you guys were hooting and hollering. And it was so much fun. And of course, on Saturday night, I think it was Saturday night, we went around and looked at all the different studios to see what everybody else was making. And people just could not wait to get to your studio. And this is why. This is Pansy, right?
Yes, this is Pansy.
And this was made by Kim Wall. I want to give credit where credit is due.
Absolutely. Definitely.
Hey, Kim, you're famous.
There you go.
So I have to ask, is it that needle felting is just so much fun, or is it you?
Oh, I don't know how to answer that one. First of all, needle felting is fun. I find it fun. I hope everybody, obviously at that group, we all found it fun, mostly because of the subject matter that was going on. It's a fun art to try. It's a fun art, especially it's a newer art. A lot of people have no preconceived notions about it. Most of them come to the classes. Now people are more educated. They understand needle felting somewhat. But way back when, I spent the first 5 years of my needle felting career, if you will, educating. Even when I did teddy bear show, because I'd make teddy bears at a show. And then I'd also sit needle felt when I had nothing else. So I most of the time I spent educating, and you still do, because it's still relatively new. But it's fun. There's no pressure. There's no patterns. There's no counting. There's no calculating patterns or there's none of that. I just have to take my color fibers. It's like working, my best analogy is clay and a sculpting tool. Okay, my wool is my clay and my needle's my sculpting tool. Of course, along with a few other little things, but mainly my needle. And it's a matter of shaping. So I can stop what I'm doing. I don't have to worry about being in the middle of a pattern or a middle of a count or a middle of anything. I can do it, I can drop it, and I can run and do something else. I can go pick the kids up if I'm watching whatever grandkids. It's easy. And I think that allows people to just take a deep breath and relax when they're doing this. It's not, we don't have to, like kind of bite our lip, and, we're not put under any pressure. So it lends itself to that. And I try my very best to make it fun. Because it is whimsical. We're doing, especially when we did this class, we did some real whimsical. We did character dolls. And a lot of people started out with an idea in their head about what they were going to create. Well, needless to say, most of these characters, let's go with characters, were not what anybody had in their mind, but they came out great. and they did a fabulous job. They were done, they had started these wonderful characters on Friday, and by Saturday night, now some parts of them were not as finished as others, but we draped and we did our thing. But many people were very impressed by the work. They were impressed themselves that they could get this done. So it was fun. Is it me? I don't know. That's a question for the students, but I try to find the fun in it, because life's too serious and we all really need a good laugh right now. And so sitting here having students ask you, can I make this anatomically correct? And being able to say, you can do whatever you want. And when they walked around the studio, what was going on. It was fun. It was just fun to be able to let loose. And I think that's what made it a great group event. And everybody egging each other on too. Once you got one or two loosened up, it just let everybody let their hair down and had fun and made beautiful, beautiful characters. I
remember that when we were in there, we were saying, well, this must be the advanced level class, because, almost every workshop, you got people like me in the corner with the glob, the lump, but everybody's was beautifully made, even though it wasn't done, they were beautifully made. Then later we found out, no, some of these people had never picked up a felt needle before.
That first Fiber Forum group, there was one of my students, one of my regular students went, and my friend who's an assistant, she had some needle felting knowledge, but they were the only 2 out of 10. So all of these people were basically beginners. Some had, they tried it once or got a kit, but nothing where you'd say, oh, these people are experienced. Now, this was not an advanced level class. I was running scared because they were doing some heavy lifting in this class. They were working with armatures, as you could kind of see from Pansy. She's able to pose, but she's on wire. But they were finding it fun to work with the wire. Armature wasn't that hard to work with. So I was very proud of them. I was really proud of them and what they got accomplished, because I kind of threatened them, because it was my first Fiber Forum. I said, I don't want to be the one. And I said, when the studio stroll comes around, I don't want heads and bodies and stuff laying on the table. I said, they better be put together. And you see, they even made little bases by using their foam pads. They were awesome. They were an awesome group. I had a great time. Hopefully they did too.
Oh, they did. Trust me, they did. Now this is next piece of work I absolutely loved. I say that a lot, but I did love it.
Okay.
This was for the National Reading Month, and it was a collaborative project.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
And one reason why I loved it, because the theme of it was the song Grandpa's Featherbed from John Denver. And in it, he talks about there were 8 kids, 4 hound dogs, and a piggy we stole from the shed that were all in this bed together. And you, with other artists, have made this song. It's beautiful. And my understanding is you were responsible for the dogs and the pigs, right?
Right. And there was in this photo, you can't see them, but on the end of the bed, towards where you see there's a little kid with a red pajama kind of outfit on, there's a cow. The illustrations in the book, which we have, the book is right there. The author did a beautiful job of illustrating these crazy characters. And the artist who I collaborated with at that time was Karen Hawkins, who's a marvelous, wonderful figurative artist. She's the moderator of the Go Figure Guild, which I belong to. And it's they're mostly doll artists, but they do them in all kinds of media. They're awesome on an aside. But this collaboration we did, because again, like you said, National Reading Month, we did them yearly to try to get kids to maybe get excited about reading a book and perhaps creating at the same time and using their art as well as the book. So maybe reading a book and then saying, hey, I could make that, even if they weren't working in fiber, they could be working in clay or whatever they wanted to do. And this piece was just a riot to work on. You can tell because we had feathers, literal feathers everywhere, and it was really great. And the book, the illustrations, if you ever get to see this book, I forgot the author's name. I can't think of it right now. but you can look at them, and we went as close as we could to his illustrations. So hopefully, and again, I know the kids enjoy it, and they actually travel to the libraries in the area by us once in a while too. So they go out, even if we don't do the schools since COVID, they actually go to libraries for display. So it hopefully gets the kids moving and reading and arting, as it were. So I'm glad you enjoyed the piece.
Oh, I loved it. There are two things. One, oh, Mandy, can you go back to that image just one more minute? Sorry. I missed this and you had to point it out to me, so I'm going to point it out to everyone else. If you look at the woman on the right holding the pillow, she's in front of the book. If you look at the dog, Irene has a great sense of humor. The dog's lifting his leg on that poor woman kid holding the pillow. It was just so funny. It was just so much fun.
We had to have fun with the piece too. And it seemed right. You have 4 dogs in a bedroom with a bunch of kids. He needed to be doing something besides just looking goofy. So I'm glad you saw that. I'm glad you were able to pick up on it.
Well, what was it like working as a collaboration?
Oh, well,
in some ways people are like, no, I just want to do my own thing. So what was it like for you?
Oh, it was great. I've worked with Karen. We have done 3 or 4 collaborative pieces, all for this National Reading Month. And we've done several. We did the Napping House. We've done, oh God, I can't even think. There are a couple more. I don't want to waste time trying to remember now, but we have done several. And she's a wonderful collaborator. She's a wonderful collaborator. So and we see the same things. So when we get together, it's very simple. We both know what jobs we have, quote unquote, and we execute. And then we try to make the whole thing come together with its accessories and all that kind of thing to make the pieces come alive, which is, we're trying to communicate to kids. So we've got to do the best job we know how to make that happen because mostly, again, it's easy to lose a kid's interest very quickly if it gets too boring. You got to make the pieces a little bit of fun. So yeah, it's fun to do collaborations, but I think too it's fun to do them with people that you can mesh with too. I people who can't, and it's not a knock on them. It's just the way they work. So.
Well, somebody put in here that Christopher Canyon is the book author.
Thank you. I couldn't remember. Thank you.
Thank you, Benita. So my next question is, it may be a tough one for you. What piece do you think of your work that you're the most proud of?
It is a really tough question.
Like, which kid do you like the best?
Yeah, which kid? Yeah, well, that's tough.
So we gave you 3.
Okay. I like all these kids for various reasons. The one on the one on the left that's got like the highlighted muzzle and everything else, he is a result of, I want to say poverty, but let's just say money was tight that year. And I was designing new bears. We used to do the International Toy Fair at the Javits Center every year.
Wow.
To sell to retailers, the collectible bear shops and stuff, which was a big thing. And I was having trouble. So I did this bear. I had this beautiful mohair to work with. I did the insets all with the felt, with cloth felt, regular felt, not needle felted or anything like that. And there was no needle felting when Huxtable was made. That's his name. But what I had done, I had taken an airbrushing class. So I said, well, let me play with the airbrush. And I did. And I loved it. It popped. The whole bear's face popped. It accented him. It brought out color. It brought out character. I said, oh, here we go. I found my niche for this year. And he sold very well. This is actually my husband's bear. And he is very happy and proud of this bear all the time. This is his favorite. But yes, he's one of the ones because he was born out of need. What can I do that I could afford that I can't buy more new fabric and all that? So he was born out of that. The middle one and the one on the right, which I believe is Emmett, who's the clown looking one. They are a really great, I'm proud of them because they're the bridges for me between the bears and the needle felting. I use needle felting on the mohair fabric as an embellishment to bring out character features. So Huxtable was with the airbrush, but I used the wool on the middle one is Tucker, who's got the little bell on his hat. And then Emmett is kind of obvious. He's named after Emmett Kelly. And I could bring out the painted face of a clown on Emmett. Emmett did win an award in Europe also. He was another one that did that. But I had fun combining the two things I loved at the time and was able to bridge those two. So out of all the pieces I could pick right now, you gave me these three. So yeah, they're a reason to be proud. It's just a matter of where I was in my quote unquote career. I'm sure there's other pieces I was proud of, but it was a different time and there was a reason for that.
Well, I hope you don't mind. I've taken license and picked an image that I think you should be proud of.
Okay.
This next piece, I thought it was amazing.
Oh,
Tell us about this.
oh, BB King. BB King's manager, one of his managers from the agency that he was signed on with, came out to our teddy bear store out when we were on Long Island in Riverhead. My studio was in the store. I made bears and stuff like that at that time too, obviously, my little workbench and all that. Anyway, I was walking out. I can't explain the place. It was small and we had a boardwalk. Had to go take a break, a small potty break as it were. And I was walking out of the store and I saw when I was coming back, a woman came out and she says, oh, by the way, she says, who's the artist that does all that stuff? And they're really good. I said, well, I hate to say this, but it's me. I said, it sounds kind of odd. I wasn't there to look professional at that moment. And she says, oh, wow. She says, I have a favor to ask. I said, okay. She says, and she mentioned that she was BB King's manager and she wanted to have something made for him for his birthday and coinciding with the opening of his museum in his place of birth. They were opening a BB museum. And she said, can you do a portrait doll? And at this time, I didn't do 2Ds or anything, nothing. That was none of this. In fact, I didn't do dolls that well. I mean, I did them occasionally, but wasn't anything I would say I do a portrait. I said, oh, I don't know. I don't know. I said, it really depends on what you're looking for. I said, can I get back to you? She said, well, I think you could do it. I said, okay. I said, let me get back to you. I got to think about this one because you're doing somebody who's kind of iconic. It really is not, it's not just some, like make me a clown or make me I don't know, make me the newspaper man on the corner. I did it. I told her I would try. I also told her that if she was not satisfied with the doll as it was, I said I would not charge her for it. I said, because I explained to her, this was my first foray into doing any kind of a portrait doll. So she actually came up with, you see in this picture here, you could see the guitar. That's actually a miniature Lucille that was given to them by one of a Fender, I believe, gave him the little, miniature models of his guitars. So that was actually from her. And the rest of him, she gave me a bunch of pictures to work from. This is a picture, obviously, after she gave it to him. The picture that I took it from was a picture of him sitting on a bench. I could kind of see the bench. So I went to look. I found the bench that looked sort of similar. And I did him. I had a friend of mine do jewelry for him. He has a bracelet on that looked like BBs. And he had a couple of rings on his fingers and stuff. I got done. I was so proud of this piece. It went to him, and obviously you see him there. He made a comment to the manager that the teeth were better than his, which they were whiter than his teeth, and everything. But I was proud of the fact that he actually enjoyed the piece. I never heard from him personally, but I did hear back from Tina, which was the manager, and she had nothing but nice things. She was so excited because each year she tried to give him something unique and special for each birthday. Especially at this point, I think this was his, I was 85th or 86th birth, somewhere in that neighborhood. That piece was done. So thank you for picking that one. Yes, I am proud of that piece.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing.
I'm glad you liked it.
I could talk to you for hours about that. Like, how did you keep the proportions right? I would probably make the hands way too big for the guitar, and
Oh,
It's an incredible piece of work.
thank you. And the skin tone.
Yeah.
Skin tone was tough too. I had to find fiber that wasn't too dark, wasn't too light. I felt like Goldilocks, where am I here? And yeah, it was a labor of love. I was happy once again, somebody pushed me in that direction. And sometimes I guess you have to pay attention when people push you, because it might be another force of nature that's pushing you. Karma's trying to tell you should be doing something different.
Well, what's next for you?
What is next? Well, let's see. Something really exciting. Fiber Forum is coming up in April, and I will be heading to Gatlinburg for another session of hopefully crazy class with our group. We're going to be doing Not Your Average Grandparent, and you saw a couple of those not average grandparents. You had a couple of images there. So we're going to be working on that, and there are some repeat students, so I'm sure there's going to be some bending of the rules, but that happens in our classes, so that's okay. So Fiber Forum is coming up. That's April, what is it, April 13th through the 16th?
16th, yeah.
Yes. Yes. So, and of course, there's many other classes besides mine. And what a delightful event. I look forward to it when I go. Let's see what's coming up. Oh, I have several classes scheduled at Heritage Weavers in Hendersonville. I've got let's see, a gnome class actually tomorrow, and we're doing a sheep class in March. And then I have a few others down the pipe for them because I schedule classes there. I try monthly. Blue Ridge Fiber Festival in June up in Sparta, North Carolina, beautiful area. I'll be doing 2 classes up there. I'm scheduling another class for Southeast Fiber Arts Alliance. I don't know when yet. I have to pick a date. They're in Atlanta, and we had a good time doing a gnome class down there last time. And I've got 2 exhibits coming up.
Oh, really?
Yeah, 2 exhibits. Well, I'm part of. I shouldn't say they're not exhibits. I'm part of that Go Figure Guild I mentioned earlier, and we have 1 exhibit at Mars Hills University. The date was changed. It was supposed to be actually going on right now, but they had to change the date. There was some construction going on there. So it's
now what city is that?
It's Mars Hills is in
North Carolina.
It's North Carolina, just north of Asheville. I would say
Mars Hill, right?
Yes,
Okay.
Mars Hill, like Mars, like the planet. Yes, Mars Hill
Or
University.
the candy bar.
Yes, there you go. There you go. Oh, good subject. Anyway, they are, we're scheduled to, it's been rescheduled, I should say, for the end, I think the end of August, beginning of September, I believe, where that hasn't been solidified. And then I have another one with that same group. We are going to be exhibiting in Knoxville, Tennessee, at the Knoxville Emporium. We have the whole group is going, and we're going to be doing an exhibit in April of 2024. So that should be really exciting. And it does seem like really long term, but sometimes those art exhibit things, you got to really get working early so you get something actually completed. But that's so far, that's what's down the pipe for me right now.
Busy woman. Busy woman.
I Lord knows I try. Lord knows I try.
Well, you know what? Let's take questions. We've got some questions coming up here. So
okay.
People want to know, what are the sizes of the senior? Do you still have the dolls next to you?
Yes, they are not complete, of course.
But that is a great way of showing what size these are.
Okay, I have one. The old lady, I apologize, she's bottomless.
Now, was this close to the size that Pansy was?
Yes.
The old couple?
Yes.
Okay.
They're about, I would say, between 12 and maybe a little bigger, 12 inches or so. So they're fairly good size. It's easier to work larger than it is to work little tiny things. I know a lot of people, oh, I'll make something small. Yes and no. You'll get done faster, but you'll have lots more holes in your fingers too. And you won't get detail. You won't get the detail. So you're better off trying to work something slightly larger. So she's a good example. Where you could say to yourself, yeah, she's about 12 to 14 inches. And she's sitting in my hand, if that helps at all. So proportionally, you can kind of see her. So I will put her there. So hopefully that'll answer the question.
Somebody wants to know, this is Gail Valance. Gail wants to know, is your owl made of 100% wool, or did you add real feathers?
No, that is 100% wool. Very nice question. No, it's 100% wool. He's got I found a fleece that had those tips on it. It was like a dark brown and then those blondish, light brown tips.
Uh-huh.
And I kept saying to myself, it was a Shetland lock. And I kept saying, it looks like something. And it's sitting in a bag. And like a lot of us, we have our fibers. And so they sit there and then all of a sudden it hits you what you could do with this. And I gave it a shot to make it look feathery. I did have an owl I did that I actually made feathers for out of fiber. He's a little more complex like that. My husband, I think, was going to have me committed because I was rolling and sculpting individual feathers on this bird. But the owl that Gail is talking about is all wool. It's all wool. And it just shows you what you can do in the variety of fibers. If you have that variety sitting around, you can do lots with them.
This is from Sherry Miller. I like using my hand-woven fabric to create soft sculptures, mostly stuffed animals. Creating patterns is trial and error. Any suggestions on how to make patterns? Is there a source for stuffed animal patterns?
Yes. I don't have a specific resource, but there are many, and may I say many, books available that address stuffed animals specifically. I have a ton of teddy bear books that have patterns in them. And even if you didn't want to use the pattern, as written, because again, most of them are copywritten, you don't want to do that, but it gives you a good base so you can figure out exactly how you want to design yours. Maybe you'd like the arms a little more bent, or let me just grab this bear real quick. I don't do straight. So you can kind of see he's got, I don't know if this will help her or this, he's got like a big bend in his arm. Okay. Most patterns would be straight, but you can kind of look at it and say, I don't want that. I want to do something different. So if you take those professional patterns, if she'd like to, and again, you can always contact me, email me, whatever, I can give you some titles of some of the books that have some of those patterns available. And use them to help you design what you're looking for. That's my best answer to that.
Okay. Gail Violence has another question. She said, when you make the wall pieces, do you spray the surface of the wall to keep it resistant to dust?
No.
Okay.
Not at this point. I have not. The owl has been hanging up for a while. And in my area I'm up in north of Asheville, so I'm in the mountains. I get a lot of dust here. It's all that lovely red dust. It's beautiful. Not. I just make sure I keep up with it a little bit, as far as I take a microfiber cloth and not rub it, but like just blot it and try to pick it up. You can also use compressed air to blow some dust off of it. Or if some people, I know they can reverse their vacuums too. You can blow some of the dust off of it a little bit. Most of the wall pieces I do a lot are under glass. Some of the ones behind me, these are all shadow boxes and they're under glass. And that'll help you. Really just depends on how you design the piece. If you could get a really deep shadow box, it won't even affect the piece. The owl, I just liked him the way he was. That squirrel that you had the image up of the squirrel, he's in glass. He's in glass and he's not going to get dusty. So a little bit of both. You can do it. I just have to be careful. You can't brush it, is my point. You can't take it or lint brush or anything like that.
Well, this is a good question. This is a question I would want to ask. Okay. Kathy Wilcox wants to know, do you have any tips for protecting yourself from pricking yourself with the needles?
I give that sheet out in the beginning class all the time. The best thing I can tell you is to pay attention. You're never going to go your whole needle felting career without stabbing yourself. It's just not going to happen. Get that thought in your head right away. You will stab yourself. Protecting yourself is just really a matter, for me, again, with students too. I ask them to pay attention. We all make mistakes when especially in a group. You're busy, you're trying to listen to someone. And of course, your mother taught you, look at me when I talk to you. Okay. Not in our classes necessarily. We teach people it's not rude not to make eye contact. And that's the thing. Watch what you're doing. Look at the direction of the needle compared to where your hand is. Most of the time, injuries happen when the needle is perpendicular to your hand or your fingers. Less happens when it's parallel because it will go past. You may touch it, but you're not sticking it. So those are little things. I know people who try to use gloves and all that. And I've been asked that, oh, I use it. I said, I can't feel the fabric. So as far as I'm concerned, it's a waste of time. That's my opinion. I know people who work with it and they do fine. It's, I think it's subjective. It's like tasting wine. But as far as protecting yourself, I think it's mostly being aware that you could stab yourself. That's really what it is.
Several people have asked, this is from Jennifer Verl, and she wants to know about the eyes and the teeth. Everybody wants to know how you did those, like on the dog and on the, all of them.
Okay,
Are they felted?
Yeah, oh yeah, those are all felted. I do not, no, they're not plastic. They're not, no, they're all wool.
Amazing.
When I teach, even you showed Pansy before, that the doll that Kim made, those eyes are wool. I make you work hard when you're doing stuff. I want you to work with the fiber so you understand what the fiber does. Later on, you can learn shortcuts. In the pieces I make, mostly portrait and that, it's all wool. I have a piece that I did a cat. He's on a catty corner. His eyes are huge. I mean, they take like, it seems like half the picture. And somebody has asked me too, oh, is that paint on top of the wool? I said, no, it's wool. You just have to, you blend in color. And that's a matter of, color blending and fooling around and looking at the photo of maybe what you're working with, because an eye is never blue. The sky is not blue either. If you look at it, there's shades. And I learned a lot of that through trial and error, plus especially some of my students who are good with color. Okay, and that's what the painting people, they're good with it. And they've learned that there's no such thing, especially in nature, of it's white. It's never white. It's never black either. There's shades to bring it out. So that, as far as the eyes and the teeth that you saw on the dog are also wool. They are rolled on skewers, and that makes the edges cleaner. It's not just, I don't just put white in because it would be too fuzzy. It wouldn't look molded like that, like your teeth do. So I try to get that in, and I mix media a lot. Anyway, if I'm about to base my art, it'd be a mixed media art anyway, because I will put different things in a painting. But in the pieces that you're describing, I work with wool and fiber only. So hopefully that answers her question.
Well, I loved how you put that little pop of white in the eyes.
Yes, that's considered the spark of life or light.
Yeah.
And that brings it alive. If you do not do it, it'll be nice. It'll be a nice piece, but it won't talk to you.
Yeah.
It won't talk to you. You need that light. You need that light to sparkle.
Well, Ann Bird wants to know where we can see more of your works, and she wants to know on your website, and we will talk about your website. There is some beautiful stuff.
Hopefully not too much, only because I take care of my website and it needs to be updated very badly. But yeah, you can see some stuff on the website. Better for me right now anyway, is you can check my Facebook page, because it's, as most people now know, we get lazy. A web page is harder because you have to work with code and all that. Facebook, I could take a picture and have that up in 5 minutes. There it is. Hey, this is what I'm working on right now, or whatever. So yeah, if she's looking, my Facebook page will have student work as well as my own. I don't have it exclusive because I'm proud of my students too. So if you see an image there that intrigues you, you can always ask. But most of the time you'll know if it's me or the students, because you'll see it with class pictures. So that's the best place to actually see stuff as of right now.
Well, we have to stop for today. So this is a nice segue into, thank you so much for being here, Irene.
Oh, no, thank you for having me. I had a blast. I had an absolute.
It was wonderful to have you here. And so here is her website, Irene Heckel, originals.com. So check that out, and check out her Facebook page, and you can see more and more of her work there. I think is your schedule on there also, Irene?
Yes, it's not up to date right now. It needs to be redone.
Okay.
So some of those events and things that are upcoming that I mentioned are not on there yet, but hopefully by the end of the week, I should have it all updated again, and it'll be.
People are chomping at the bit. They want to get in your class.
I hope so. I want to see. I love, that's you know that. I love that part of my career, is the teaching. I love that. So I'm hoping I get to see everybody eventually.
We also want to thank our sponsor, Myrna Lindstrom. Myrna, thank you so much. Our little Textiles and Tea angel. She's been
Yes.
very supportive, and we appreciate your support of this episode of Textiles and Tea. We have, if you would like to be a sponsor, please go to our website. If your guild, your business, want to sponsor an episode of Textiles and Tea, you can go to our website at weavespindye.org and you can sign up there. If you have any questions, you can call us. Be glad to help you with that. We have an event coming up in 2024. Hard to believe, but we're working on Wichita. Be aware that leader proposals, you can sign up now. We are taking leader proposals online. We have a brand new system. We heard you when you didn't like some of the ways we did our system. We have a brand new system we think will be easier and for you to put your information in there. We have a deadline of March 19th, so we are encouraging you all to get busy and get those leadership proposals on there. We're looking for a variety of fiber arts classes. If you're not really sure what you want to do, or not sure if you should put in this one or that one, put them both in and let us help you with that, okay? We'll pick out what we need for our schedule and what looks great, and it will, of course, be your class. So do that. Leader proposals are open, available. March 19th is the deadline, so jump on that. Also, if you wanted to be a volunteer, I know that in Knoxville, we had people say, well, if I'd known ahead of time, I didn't know I really could do this. So we're doing a Zoom event on Wednesday, February the 22nd. It's at 6:30. It's tomorrow night. Come on to the Zoom event and you can hear about all the different kind of volunteer opportunities. If you want to be kind of in the mix of things and help with some of the things starting right now, all the way through next year, we have positions for people who want to do something like that. If you want to help on site, we have those positions available, and we'll be answering all kinds of questions about volunteering. So check that out. It'll be online. You can find out about it again at weavespindye.org. And you can learn more about being a volunteer at Convergence, Wichita, Kansas. Next up, we have Textiles and Tea Live. One of you know that in our magazine, we have a travel and workshop section where we put in all the different events that are coming up this year, whether it's a tour or a conference or a class. Well, next on this Thursday, you can experience Travel and Workshop Live. It's an opportunity to hear the people who are running these programs. You can see images, learn more about the conference, learn more about the tour, get an idea of where you want to go next. Where's your travel going to be? Your next fiber travel, what you want to do. That's again free to everyone. It will be Thursday. You can sign up for it at, again, weavespindye.org. It's 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Sign up. You can see it later if you're not available during that time. We want to thank everybody for their support of Textiles and Tea. Your donations to the Fiber Trust or your sponsorship help these programs happen, not just Textiles and Tea, whether it's Careers in Textiles, Spinning and Weaving Week. All your donations to the Fiber Trust make these programs happen, and we were very, very thankful. And we encourage you to join or donate at weavespindye.org. If you've missed any of the episodes, you can watch them anytime. You want to watch them with a friend, you want to watch it again, you can watch it on HGA Facebook page, or you can watch it on YouTube. And I encourage you to subscribe to the YouTube page, because when you do, you'll get a notice when a new episode has been uploaded. So you can see any of the programs and watch them anytime you want. Thank you so much for joining us this week. It was wonderful having Irene here. Thank you, Irene. We look forward to seeing you down the road at one of those incredible workshops. So thank you so much. Next week, we have Mary Burgess, and I think you're going to find what she does very interesting. So I hope you'll have a wonderful week. Thank you so much for being here. Happy tea.